Mirror, mirror on the wall, who has got a pair of balls at all? I see a people on their knees, not realizing they are as powerful as trees. Power comes from deep below, and it's into that power true warriors grow. A people fooled by politics galore, until one just man says, no more. For into such power he will stand, invoking the ancestors of his land. Aligned with the cosmos in all its parts, true power exists in awakening people's hearts. A nation of warriors is about to be awoken. The beating heart of Éirú was never broken. For the heart of our ancestors beats in you. This is not philosophy, my friend. This is true. I'm about to tell you why you're here. Fair enough, AI is really good at doing many things, right? But I think the human heart and condition is a lot better. I'm just going to take off this. Right? I'd like everyone to just relax, and you're going to go on an interesting journey, right? Like you talk about the heart node of the world, and part of that reason is because all the seas, oceans, everything, all pass through Ireland, right? So we have a massive connection. So I'm going to give you an interesting introduction to Irish native understanding. So we talk of the land as being living, right? Just to give you an understanding. If you had a gnome stone, you have a stone like this, and then you have a language, you have a line, and across, down, down, down. So you catch that, and you turn it to its side. That's the origins of the language of music, sound, vibration, and frequency. Om. But it makes sense, because when we talk, it's about harmonics, frequency, and that's the part of the natural communication process, right? So sacred sites in Ireland are all about frequency and harmonics and energy, and I'm just going to give you an introduction into Ireland as Éire as a land being living, right? So you talked a while ago about the chakra system. In Irish, that's chakra, chak meaning home, right? So let's look at Ireland as being living, and as most people here today would understand through the chakra system, right? I'll just stand over here past the beautiful 8-year-old oak tree that'll be planted later on today, right? So let's look at Ireland, Éire, right? The land has been living. Some people see it as a baby fetus or a bear. It's up to you, whatever way you want to look at it, that's okay. Éirú, feminine, let's say goddess energy, if you want, let's say a fetus of a baby girl, whatever, right? So I'm going to look at the chakra points on the land, right? The feet is West Cork. That's why people in West Cork are very grounded. There's a very beautiful grounded energy of West Cork, right? Cork, the city where you are now and where I'm from, is the base chakra. That's the point where all energy rises. That's why it's the rebel county. It's about water, yeah. It's about water, and we'll get into the reason why you're here at Dripsey Castle as well today, right? It's about water. So we look at all the energy points on it, right? Belfast is the subconscious mind. That's why it's been fighting with itself all along. The crown, Derry, but in Irish that's Dira, which is the oak tree, it's not crown as in C-R-O-W-N, it's crown as in C-R-A-N-N, which is the Irish word for tree, or spiritually seen as a higher state of consciousness. The flags of Connacht are 2 arms, because you're looking at the hands. When you look at the Burren in County Clare, it's got different flora and fauna, because that's the gut. There's all underground waterfalls in the Burren as well that people are only starting to realize now, right? There's Dublin for a long time is where the child was grabbed, you know. We Irish people, we're like the traumatized child of the world, but we have learned. We have learned an awful lot, right? There's an important part as well when we look at martial arts, right? There's a very important ancient martial art of Ireland called Slíomh-Atha, meaning the way of life. And the way is very important. In what we would know now is, let's say you look at the ancient teachings of China with martial arts and all of the above. There's a very important point in the human body called Dantian. And they believe this is the point of the body where you can pull energies in, energies out, and all their gods knew all the wisdom of Dantian. Tian means home, right? But Dan Tian in Irish has a very similar meaning to Tu Hade Danan, right? So we had ancient martial arts where we could connect to this energy, and that was disconnected from us. So we are bringing this back, right? So the ancient teachings of ascended masters, all of the above, you can access that through martial arts in Ireland, Dan Tian, right? Tu Hade Danan, very similar, right? So when it comes to sacred sites as well, the Dan Tian of Ireland was around the Limerick-Tipperary border. Some of the most sacred sites in Ireland have been protected for a very long time. People today would know about the Hill of Tara and all of the above. Very important sites, definitely. But energetically, a lot of people are coming to these sites all the time, having ceremonies, rituals, all of the above. And the most important thing for Tara at the moment is to leave it alone. Leave it recover, leave it recover. So with understanding of that knowledge and wisdom, we've places in Ireland that have been protected for a very long time. And especially around the Limerick-Tipperary border, people would know about Carnahalla, which is an amazing spot. People talk about Newgrange, but Newgrange is relatively new in the scheme of things. Old Grange will be in the Limerick-Tipperary border, right? It's a very important ceremonial site that was used even by the Knights Templar for a long time when they controlled Ireland, because they knew of its importance, and most kingship ceremonies of Europe happened in Carnahalla under the guidance of the Knights Templar, right? But there's a reason they had to come to Ireland for all of this, and that's what we're talking now. Also, down the road from Carnahalla, you have the tomb of Éirú, right? Many people drive past this today not knowing that it's one of the most sacred sites around. But it's done that way to protect it, you know? It's overgrown with nature. There's fairy forts everywhere. It's 2 stories high with a big V in it. The V is big bricks, the same as pyramids. There's a V at the winter solstice of the morning sun of the winter solstice. The sun rises above and illuminates the whole chamber of Éirú. And there's something beautiful about sitting there, watching this happen in the most pristine way possible. The magic of Ireland is very much alive, and it's been protected for a very long time. And that's the reason why you're here. So let's go back into the origins of life and all of that, like where you're born in water, the waters of your mother's womb, all of the above, right? And we talk about Cork being the base chakra, where energy rises, but it's about water. Water is very important. I'm at a point where I'm thinking like, yes, we are blessers of nature, but there's something for me to do with water. And maybe that's, my name is Banks. Maybe it's to do with that. Banks going back to water. Water is very important to me. This area is all powered mainly by water. It's very important, right? So ye are in the base chakra. Let's go back into the waters of it. That's why you're here. So we are now on very sacred land. Very, very important. In Cork and Ireland as well, all rivers are named after archetypes of gods and everybody, because we walk and we give honor and thanks as we look at these rivers, and that's very important as we talk about energy as well, right? I don't want to take people's time too much, but I'm just going to talk on another very important aspect, right? When we talk about language, I explained before about a thing called Om, right? Om. But every letter in the native Irish alphabet would derive from the name of trees, okay? So we're going to get into coding. Part of the reason we're here as well is to keep the codes of nature. For a long time in Ireland, you had all different types of Om groves, and a lot of people thought, you have the real one, no, you have the real one. These are coding mechanisms, and how we understand nature and our real purpose in being here. We're here to look after nature too as well, right? When people look at this first, they think Druids, but this information was inherited by Druids, right? So I'm just going to talk for a moment. So in this one, this is a code that I would like and I would use, right? So you have 13 trees. You also have 13 moons a year. So each tree is more conscious or fertile due to the water crystallization of the tree in synchronicity with the moon. So you know, it's not about just, let's say with medicines and stuff, it's also the timing of it, which correlates to different parts of your body, all of the above, right? But it gets a lot deeper than that, right? So different trees would produce different forms of oxygen as well. And also, even more importantly, the mycelial network underneath the ground, where you can really get into coding soil, all of the above. And you really get into understanding of sacred sites and different codes and all of that. And this was very important to Irish people for a very long time. The word Irish as well, I-R-I-S, and then H is kind of like from. Iris is consciousness, right? Irish is just the people of consciousness. I would argue that there's a lot of people in Ireland today that are not very Irish. The consciousness isn't there. But that's growing rapidly, like, you know, so to have that spirit in you makes you Irish, I believe, right? Where was I going with that? But the coding is very important and how we embrace the coding of lands, nature. You can do so much stuff and program whole areas, and that's very important here as well. Just as I progress, I'm going to just quickly invoke the spirit of Cormac McCarthy. Cormac McCarthy, you're on his land now. He was the last high chief, Irish high chief, who kept the flame of our old ways going for a very long time. The castle over, that's the castle of Cormac McCarthy. Cormac McCarthy was Ireland's last Taoiseach, who was elected by Tanistry or ancient systems that respected Brehon laws and nature and all of the above. So that's where we are now. So right now I hold out my arm to the flame of Cormac McCarthy and pull it back in, because I believe something very important is about to happen in Ireland. Ireland is, as you heard about nodes and stuff like that, wherever it happens in Ireland sends a ripple effect of consciousness through frequency everywhere, right? That's who we are. This is important. This is like, so we're going to have a beautiful water ceremony in a while. We're going to be planting an 8-year-old oak tree that was planted by my niece 8 years ago as a 4-year-old. And when I was getting her to plant it as well, I got her to put the acorn in her mouth and think of her goals, dreams, and everything she wanted to achieve in life. And asking a 4-year-old that, you get nothing. She's a better person to ask than me. So that was grown in that way, and her name was Éirú, which is an interesting name too as well, right? So, and we had very important laws in Ireland, the Brehon laws, which respected the spirit of us and people and nature and the whole lot, right? And up in 1607, they were outlawed by English law, right? And Cormac McCarthy was the last person who kept this alive, that's an important thing to know, right? So one of the biggest problems with us even losing our elders and chieftains was that we lost our social structures and how we function as people. And Irish people and the spirit of Irish people became cannon fodder for the world ever since. And we're crying out to bring this back, right? So I'm here today saying I need my elders back and my chiefs back, right? We need that's what we're here now, right? So we became cannon fodder for the world, but we now need our social structures back now more so than ever. I lived in New Zealand as well. I love listening to, I'm not going to say jealous. I love what ye have, and I only wish that in Ireland today. I need my chiefs back. I need my elders back. That's what I need, right? Now, we're going to have an interesting talk about that for a moment. So, like, I lived in New Zealand as well, and I was very inspired by the New Zealand Maori. How they were able to keep their own structures and actually operate underneath state bodies in their own way, and they had their own strength of people. So what I'm saying is not actually a threat to the state. What I'm saying could actually save the state billions when it comes to mental health, all of the above, and we need this now more so than ever. And if we ever want to progress and be our own people, we need to start there first, right? This is really important. So I'm just going to quickly welcome Kevin. So Kevin runs the Brehon Academy, right? So you're going to understand about Brehon law. And if I could get everybody, if you're on YouTube, just to quickly subscribe to the Brehon Academy, because we're looking at interviewing every chief from around the world, and we're learning as we go. And we're bringing it real time into Ireland, right? So I will ask you, please, when I finish this talk, not to clap, to keep the energy here, right? And I'm just going to quickly pass you over to Kevin.
I'm going to keep this quick. Keep it short. Okay. So I run the Brehon Academy, and my main focus is in reviving the awareness of the customs of early Ireland, the pre-colonial law system that we had in this country. It was once said of Ireland a long time ago that there is no nation of people under the sun that loves equal and indifferent justice better than the Irish. Nor will they rest better satisfied with the execution of that law, even if it's against themselves, so that they too can have the benefit and protection of the law when upon just cause they do desire it. Now, the man who said that was John Davies. He was the Attorney General for Ireland in the early 1700s. And that was the same century that the Brehon laws were banned. So he wasn't a fan of the Brehon laws. he was very much a fan of the crown system of law. Fast forward then to 1950, so about 250 years later, we have a barrister. He's based in Dublin. His name is R.W. Bentham. And he's talking about the Irish irreverence for law now. He said that Irish irreverence for law does not stem from sympathy with crime or wrongdoing in general, but rather from the fact that the Irish, who have a very long memory, know that the law in Ireland is not Irish law. However just it may be, it was once most unjust. It does not command reverence as a native institution, but merely respect nowadays as an essential part of the machinery of government. So what happened in between those 2 points? We were once seen as a people who loved our law, and I'm going to tell you a story to highlight why was the Brehon law different than what we are using today. And it's the story of Cormac MacArt. So our system back in the day was based on restitution. And the Brehons, often the kings would act in the place of a Brehon. They would have to not just articulate a principle, they had to find a principle in nature that they could apply to the facts of the case. There was a such thing as fear flahamon. Fear is the Irish for man, flahamon is the Irish for noble, so it's like a noble man's judgment. And essentially what happened was Cormac MacArt, when he was a young boy, his father's throne was usurped. So there's a usurper on the throne. And one day, sheep farmers' sheep escaped and got into the Queen's crop, and they were woad crops, which are used for dyeing clothes. So they're very expensive crops. Now, the sheep damaged the crops, and the Queen wanted to take the farmer, Benaid, her name was, to court. So she called on her husband, who was the king at the time, and the judgment he gave was the sheep should be given as payment for restitution for the crops. But upon hearing this, a young boy in the crowd said, that's a false judgment. As the fleece grows on the sheep, so does the fleece grow on the land. So you should give the fleece of the sheep as payment and not deprive Benaid of her livelihood. And upon hearing this, how does that feel? It feels more fair, right? And that's the thing. That's what the Irish were looking for. They loved the feeling of justice. They loved the feeling of justice and truth. And that takes us back to Sir John Davies saying, there is no nation of people under the sun who loves equal and indifferent justice better than the Irish. Now, I studied law, and while I was studying law, I realized that not a lot of Irish people know about this Brehon law. And it's just as sad as Cork is playing in the All-Ireland final today, right? Okay. They're playing hurling, okay? And that's one of our ancient sports. So imagine we just found out tomorrow that we had an ancient sport, or music, or language. So Brehon law was as significant as any of those parts of our identity. It's who we were as a people. That's how we were known. So I would also like to invite you to check out Brehon Academy on YouTube. We're on Facebook as well. I have a website, brehonacademy.org. And please, I'm appealing to all of you because you're the right type of people. I want to speak to you. I want to hear your stories. So I have a YouTube channel where I'm interviewing people all the time. And I just want to say thank you for giving me this time to speak to you. I wouldn't forgive myself if I came to an event like this and I didn't talk about our early Irish customs. So thank you.
There was an interesting point to just finish up on. Thank you, Kevin. It's interesting. I come here to listen to amazing people from around the world, but Kevin is a person I look forward to listening to every day as well. If you're on his YouTube channel, please go to the oldest videos. You'll be amazed. You learn everything about the whole two-headed on different structures, the whole lot. Right, just the final point. As I was saying, we need to bring our own systems back, right? We need our own native indigenous systems back here in Ireland. But chatting to Kevin and chatting to many people who understand law, right? In order for it to happen first, we need to be internationally recognized. So I'm here seeking the international recognition of the tribes from all over the world, as I recognize you too as well. You know, this is very important. This is important for the spirit of the Irish people, because you look at Ireland, we're a traumatized people, right? It's like the abandoned child. Even though everybody loves the abandoned child just needs to be recognized, right? And that's so we need to just to recognize the indigenous spirit and the rights of the people, and that's what's going to happen. So like the way it works too as well, that is all going to be encompassed ceremoniously in the planting of an oak tree, and done in the most beautiful way as we recognize each other. This is very important, and this is so then when like legally the way things, well, not legally, what does that even mean, right? But that's so when that happens, then we create our own systems, and we're in a very interesting place now at the moment. People talk about Brehon law, bringing in chieftains. You now have amazing people in this room who would understand things like blockchain technology and how we can do it absolutely in an amazing way. Even the land, people know about the history of the land, and the people who want to know there, if you've blockchain people, like technology people who understand a lot, and you can do it beautifully. Right, do it in the most beautiful way. I'd just like to thank you for your time. And yeah, so that's what it's about, recognizing each other. And I'll get out of your way quickly.